Welcome to No Nonsense Nonprofits. Hi, I'm Sandy Ray, founder of Sandra E. Ray CPA, where we alleviate financial headaches so that you can create a bigger impact. Today, we're talking about understanding nonprofit financial ratios. Now, you've all heard the adage, what gets measured gets managed. And that's basically what these ratios are about. We've got some financial ratios that are simple to calculate, that help you see where you are with your organization and its financial health, and to help you manage it, to continue what's successful and to address what's not quite so successful. Once you have the financial areas that are important to you, you can measure those ratios, you can develop a goal, and you can strategize. Now, there are 7 ratios I want to go over today. The first one is the operating reserve ratio. And this is basically telling you how long can you survive on only your reserves. It's a very simple calculation. You take your operating reserves balance, divide it by your annual expense budget, and you want that ratio to be about 25% or more. So that means that you will have at least 3 months of operating reserves that will cover expenditures if nothing else comes in the door to help you with those. And like I said, I would start, if you're not at 25%, that would be my goal, would be to get to 25%. If you're at 25% now, maybe you want to be at 33 1/3, which is 4 months, or maybe you want to be at 50%, which is 6 months. So wherever you are currently, set that goal and work towards that. Your fundraising efficiency ratio. Now, this is something very unique to nonprofit organizations, where we're looking at how much does it cost us to raise a dollar for our organization. And it's, again, a simple calculation. What is our total fundraising revenue? And we divide it by our total fundraising expenses. And if we've got our chart of accounts set up properly, then we know those two numbers very easily. We want that benchmark to be 5 or more. That indicates that we're spending 20 cents to raise a dollar, if that makes it easier for you. So you want to be like 5 or more. If you're less than 5, that means you're spending more than 20 cents to raise a dollar. And that's probably not where you want to be. The third ratio I want to talk to you about is the program efficiency ratio. Now, this measures the amount of spending on programming versus our total expenditures. Obviously, you take your total program expenses and divide it by the total operating expenses or organizational expenses. And you want a percentage of 75% or more. That says that we are spending 75%, at least 75% of our expenditures go to programming to help our constituents. Now, the fourth ratio I want to talk to you about is working capital ratio. And this measures our short-term financial health. And many of you may know it as the current ratio. We take our current assets divided by our current liabilities. We want that ratio to be between 1.5 and 2. That's a good strong area. That means we have plenty of assets to cover our liabilities over the next year. We do not want to see that ratio dip below 1. If it does, that indicates that our liabilities that we have for over the next year exceed our assets for over the next year. And that is an indicator that we are not in a healthy position as far as our finances go. The next ratio I want to talk to you about is operating margin. Many of it as net margin ratio in the for-profit world. And it measures your ability to produce a potential financial surplus. And it is a simple ratio to calculate. You take your net income, which is your total revenue minus your total expenses, and then you divide that by your revenues. And you want to try to be at 10% or above. 10% is average. Above indicates that you really have a strong ability to have a financial surplus. 20% is excellent. Anything below 10%, you want to be striving towards that 10%. The next, again, talking about savings and cash flow and those kinds of things, is the savings indicator ratio. And this measures our ability to add to our net assets, to add to those reserves. Are we putting money away for the future, or are we currently spending money out of our reserves? Helps us manage that. It's, again, an easy calculation, our net income or total expenses minus total revenues, and then we divide that result by our total expenses. Now, high ratios here indicate that you're in a savings mode. Low ratios indicate that you're in a spending mode. Now, depending upon where you are with your organization, either one may be just right for you. You have to decide, are you in a savings mode? Are you working to build that reserve? Or are you developing new programs and that you're going to be spending more than you're bringing in, but you've decided to do that? So those indicators will help where you need to be depending on your goals. And then the last ratio I want to talk to you about is the burn rate. Simply put, this is how fast are you spending? How fast are you burning through that revenue or that income or what you have in the bank? And there's actually two levels to the burn rate. There's the gross burn rate and the net burn rate. And we use this a lot with new organizations or growing organizations so that we have a good indicator of where we are financially and how far out we can go. The gross burn rate is simply our cash expenses over a period of time divided by the number of months in that period. That gives us our average monthly spend over time. And it tells us how long we can continue functioning without any new revenue. Now, the net burn rate brings the revenue into the consideration. So we take our gross burn rate and subtract our average monthly revenue. So this is an even better indicator of giving the revenue that we have coming in, how long can we sustain this before we run out of cash? Now, as financial stability is a huge factor in our ability to carry out our missions. When we're using these ratios, I want you to have a goal for each ratio in mind. And as you attain these goals, those goals may change. And I also want you to track these ratios over time, because then you can see how you're doing over time, if you're improving, or maybe there's a dip in the ratio that you don't want to see. That'll help you address those issues that are coming up. They really help you pinpoint the financial health of your organization and the areas that need to be changed or the areas that are working well. So I encourage you to pick at least 2 or 3 of these ratios. They're simple, they're easy to do on a regular basis. Track them, just get started. Pick a couple, get started, and you'll see how that really helps you pinpoint very quickly things that need to be addressed or things that are working well. I hope this was helpful for you today. And if you have any questions on this or other topics, please put that in the comment section below. Of course, we always appreciate your likes, and I want to thank you for joining me today. Remember, creating a bigger impact starts with stopping the nonsense. If you're dealing with nonsense in your nonprofit organization, we'd love to help you cut through the noise.